So in this video, I'm gonna expose the magic ingredient to success. Now, if you want to become a millionaire, hyper successful, succeed in your career, whatever not, there is one specific ingredient I want you guys to understand, and it's mathematics, or in other words, maths. Now, before you guys click off because you don't like maths or probably you suck at maths, we're not gonna do any equations here. I just want you guys to understand a few fundamental principles, and it's very important for you to understand the theological concepts out of them and see how you can essentially apply them to your life. And now, enough jargons here and enough elaboration here, let's literally jump straight to it. Now, you guys have probably heard about this, which is basically a linear diagram or a linear equation. And so I want you guys to understand that if you're unhappy with your life, most likely you are living in a linear diagram. And so what that essentially means is that you provide some type of exchange towards the universe, for example, your time, experience, action, and you put it into a linear equation. And so the issue is that when you sacrifice your time or experience or some type of action, depending on the specific task, a lot of your results is linear. So it's basically a ratio of 1-to-1. And so from now on, I want you guys to understand a few principles. Firstly, and this is not directly mathematics, the first principle is the Pareto principle. And so if you guys have heard of Pareto principle, this basically means 20-80. Now, if you're a Forex trader, or if you're in finance, or if you're some personal development guru, I don't know, you guys have probably heard about this before. And so what that essentially means is that 20% of the activities you do should yield 80% of the outcomes. Or let's just put it results. And so if you realize that there are certain activities that you are currently doing right now that doesn't yield 80% of the outcome, the law is to essentially drop that activity. Like, don't do it. It's basically you're just wasting your time, experience, or other type of value, and that's what you don't want. And so if you apply the Pareto principle in mathematics, and this is where we are basically heading to, you will formulate a so-called linear diagram. An exponential diagram. Linear diagram is here, exponential diagram is down here. And so what is so amazing about the exponential diagram is I want you guys to realize, if you're not good in maths, don't worry, we're all not really well in maths. It's something like if let's say 1 hour of time equals 20 units of experience, in the future, let's say like around here, 1 hour could equal to 100 units. And the best thing about this is that it essentially multiplies. So then as you transcend in life, or essentially go through the diagram, you see that the curve becomes more and more and more steep. And that is exactly what you want to understand. Because when it comes to success in life, now let me just erase this before I lose you here. When it comes to succeeding in life, you guys should know that it is not a static reward. It's not something that is essentially measurable, which however you can measure it through, for example, your monetary value, your net worth, all of that. But success is essentially a process. And so the exponential diagram, what I showed you guys earlier, this is basically a definition of the process. And if you guys want to go a step deeper and understand the mechanics and the engineering of the process, I've actually made a whole different video about this, where I basically define the fundamentals of how the process works. There are stuff about law of attraction, the universe, exchange time, etc., etc. That is very interesting, but I don't want you guys to understand that too deep at this point now. I want you guys to understand that your success will depend on a process. And you have to understand that this process will work. This process is guaranteed it'll work. And trust me, I've been in a stage where I thought this process wouldn't work until I've discovered the mechanisms of the universe. Then I realized, oh shit, the process actually does work. And so, let's say you have a goal for yourself. This is your goal, right? And you would like to achieve it. It can be any type of goal. I made, again, another video defining what your goal should be, but it shouldn't essentially be, let's say, net worth. Like, that's not a very good goal. A good goal would be a person you would like to become, you know, a problem you would like to solve, amount of people you would like to save, like the list goes on. But let's say you have a goal, right? And so I want you guys to understand that your goal is not accomplished through a linear diagram. It's not accomplished through a linear diagram. It's accomplished through an exponential diagram. And so I'll give you an example if you are still confused of what that exactly means. If you have done jiu-jitsu or any type of fighting martial arts, some type like that, it can even be any type of sports such as football, then you'll realize, for example, that if you want to have a black belt, let's say if you guys do jiu-jitsu, then you'll understand this very well, is in order for you to become a black belt, it's not a singular win. Like just because you won a tournament, just because you submitted someone, just because you flipped, you know, your opponent, that doesn't mean you get a black belt. The black belt is a basic understanding of this exponential process, because the moment you start, right, this is your exponential process. The beginning is always very tough. And I can say this because I'm literally starting jiu-jitsu right now, and the beginning is super, super tough. There's a lot of stuff you want to learn, and a lot of people, and by a lot, I literally mean 99% of the people, they'll start at the beginning of the exponential graph. So they'll give up, they'll start here, and they'll literally give up here. Alright, let's just put it. I'm sorry if it's a bit messy. So 99% of the people, and it's a true statistical model, 99% of the people actually stop around here. They start something, and let's say a week, 2 weeks later, a month later, they essentially stop. And so if you want your black belt, it can be a blue belt, white belt, again, it depends on the goal you set out for yourself. Understand this exponential process, because you realize that as you proceed, I hope I'm not blocking this, as you proceed over time and accumulate essentially experience, because that is really what you are collecting, you'll realize that jiu-jitsu or any type of martial arts will some get easier. Like, you know, you start doing flipping, you start understanding the techniques, and so over time you realize, oh shit, it's actually getting easier and easier. And that's the key word, it gets easier every time. So in the beginning, the start is the most difficult, and hence why a lot of people stop at the start, because it's really the most difficult. But I can guarantee you that over time things actually become easier. And so in other words, they actually become exponential. So an exponentially means that you need less effort to yield more results. Remember the Pareto principle, 20-80? So you realize that essentially I have to give little experience this time, and I can generate many more results. And so then, with that being said, you will basically accomplish your goal, whatever goal you set out for yourself. I wish you all the best.